All right, CNT125, we are working on our upper layer troubleshooting. Again, still on the part 1 of our troubleshooting lab. All right, so with upper layer, we have to be a lot more flexible and think a lot wider, because there's a lot of things that could cause issues up here because we have lots of upper layer applications. Now, in our network, I have at least configured in Telnet, SSH, FTP, HTTP, DNS. I have a number of these in here so we can play around in these upper applications to see what might be the issue. But can even be broader than that depending on the applications you're troubleshooting. So we're at least going to dabble in the upper layers. You're going to work more with this in 220, just so you know. But we're at least getting you started in doing some upper layer application troubleshooting. So some of the first things we do is we actually try those applications. And if we have a successful communication, okay. If not, we might need to dig into, is that application configured correctly or is it pointing the wrong direction kind of deal. So on PC1, we're going to do some Telnet and SSH connection testing. And if those work, then I know everything below it theoretically is working. So over here on PC1, we're going to do some Telnets and SSHs to our test node on the far side of the network. Test nodes, actually, I should say. Here we have a test node for Telnet and SSH. That's what this guy is. So we're going to do some tests on that. So we're going to open up our Telnet SSH client. We're going to put in Telnet first. We're going to put the address of 10.10.10.5. We'll try to connect to it. Username of test, password of password. And since we are connected, we know that this application is running and all the layers below it should be functioning correctly. If I encountered an issue here, I'd be trying to do some pings and other things to check that if I have connectivity, and then I might actually be checking the config on this end to see if there's an issue with that configuration. Let's try SSH now. We'll try SSH 10.10.10.5, and we'll do username of test, password of password. Oops, password. There we go. Enable class, show run. Again, if I'm able to SSH in, then all the other layer configurations below this are working correctly. So that's an upper layer check. And again, if I were having issues with SSH, I would probably be checking the configuration on that device at the end. Again, if I'm in charge of that, I'd be checking the configuration over there, making sure I have enabled that correctly. Let's try on PC2 now a connection to our FTP test node, because I do have an FTP test node over here, 10.10.10.4. So we're going to open up PC2. At the command prompt, we're going to issue an FTP connection to that. So command prompt, let's do FTP to 10.10.10.4. And I have a username again of test and a password of password. And I'm connected to it, FTP. So we're going to do directory, and I'm actually getting files, a listing of the files that are here that I could work with. So that is up and running. And we know that, again, that is an upper layer application. So all the communication from here to there, layer 1, 2, 3 is functioning, and we're getting an upper layer application over here at this device. So that's up and running. Let's now try our laptop, and let's try some HTTP stuff. We're going to use some names going to web servers, and we're going to try to ping. We're going to try to ping these names. So now we're interfacing with the DNS server, because that has to translate the name, and also the web server that's over here. Okay, so on our laptop, let's open up a command prompt, and we want to ping CNT.org, the network.org. And again, just so you know, CNT.org is this one, network.org is this one. It's two different web servers over there. So let's try to ping www.cnt.org. And let's see if we get a response. Not looking like we're getting a response. We'll be patient a minute. We'll be patient. The DNS server has to respond. Oh, there we go. We are getting a ping to 10.10.10.3. So let's try a ping of www.network.org, which is the other web server. So when I pinged CNT.org, it said, okay, a reply from 10.10.10.3 is good. When I ping network.org, it says a reply from 10.10.10.3 is good. This is, whether I ping CNT.org or network.org, it's pointing to the same IP address. Okay, I'm scratching my head a little bit. Something doesn't, I do the sniff test. Something doesn't smell right there. But let's keep going. Let's try our browser and see if we're able to communicate with each of these. www.cnt.org. And we're able to open a web page. It says, welcome to the CNT server. Yay! So now let's try to open network.org. Let's do a go. It says, welcome to the CNT server. It looks like we're loading the same web page no matter what. So again, something doesn't seem right. So let's dig a little deeper and see what the DNS server is telling us. Because maybe the DNS server is telling us the right thing, and maybe the servers are wrong, or maybe the DNS server is not telling us the right thing. So again, let's open up our command prompt. Let's do an NS lookup and say, hey, DNS server, what do you know about CNT.org? What do you know? It says, okay, my address is 10.10.10.2, and CNT.org is 10.10.10.3. Okay, that seems like that checks out because we know the DNS server is 10.10.10.2, and we know CNT.org is 10.10.10.3. So that seems legit. That seems like it's checking out. Let's go, what do you know about network.org? It goes, my address is 10.10.10.2, good. And it says network.org is 10.10.10.3. That doesn't seem right because it's supposed to be 10.10.10.6. So again, it smells funny because as we tried to load these web pages, we kept getting the same thing. www.network.org is loading welcome to CNT server, and CNT.org, net.org, CNT, there we go, is opening CNT server. So it seems like something is pointing the wrong direction. Well, let's go to our DNS server. Again, you may or may not be able to do this depending on where you're managing, but let's say this is a site we are managing. I'm going to check my DNS server and say, hey, what do you know about CNT.org and network.org? And it says CNT.org is 10.10.10.3, and we say network.org is 10.10.10.3. Uh-oh. They're both of these names are pointing to 10.10.10.3. Now, it is possible. In some scenarios, you might actually want two different domain names pointing to the same web server. I've done that actually for my wife's business. She has more than one domain name pointing to the same website. And sometimes you actually want that. In this case, we actually have two different web servers with two different identities, but the DNS server is pointing them both to the same. So let's fix this other one so it reads 10.10.10.6 like it should. Let's try that and see if we get a different result now. So now let's try to do, let's do some changes now. Let's try to look up, we'll open the, on our laptop again, let's open up our command prompt and let's try again NS lookup. And let's look up for CNT.org, 10.10.10.3. Let's try network.org and say, what do you know now? It goes, hey, 10.10.10.6. Okay. So now if we were to ping each of these, let's do a ping. All right, we'll do a ping of network.org. We should be getting a reply from 10.10.10.6. There we go. And let's try a ping of CNT.org. And I'm getting a reply from 10.10.10.3. That's looking better. Let's go to the command or web browser now. Let's open CNT.org. There's our CNT server. Now let's try network.org. Oh, we're getting a different server now. Yay! So in this case, our DNS was pointing to the wrong server, if you will. And again, if you're managing the network, that is a very possible problem, that your DNS is pointing the wrong direction. So we just fixed that in our DNS server, that we're pointing the correct direction now. So now we should have all of our entities from layer 1 to layer 7 now pointing the correct directions, having the right ports, having the right IP addresses, that we should have full connectivity in this site for this network. Yay! All right. So for proof of doing this part of the lab, you're going to save your switch config and your router config because that'll show all the corrections that you've done. You'll save those and submit those to D2L for credit of doing this part of the lab. So again, I'll do a little show run over here, test, password, enable class, show run. And this is showing that, the ports are no longer shut down, showing that you have fixed the layer 2 stuff here. And we will copy that guy. Whoop. And I'll open up a text file down here. Format, make plain text. And I'll call this guy, trouble switch config. So file, save. I'll go to the desktop. Trouble switch CFG, something like that. There's my switch. And I'll do the same thing now on the router. I'll open the router. Test, username, password, enable, class, show run. I will scroll back to the top here. I will capture all of that, copy it, and I'll paste it into my text file. And again, this is showing that you have made all the corrections. CFG, there we go. It's showing that you've made all the corrections up here, especially the DHCP corrections, and even your port correction here to bring these online, and then even your NAT correction down here too. That's what that's showing me. So you'll save that as well. And that'll be proof of doing part 1 of the lab. I don't need the packet tracer file because we kind of did that one together. I just need to see your 2 configs to show me that you've made all the network corrections for this. And that is part 1 of your troubleshooting lab. We'll come back in the next podcast and talk about what you're doing for part 2.